Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Find a depth unknown, our voice begins to rise, breaking through the noise with fire in its eyes. The spirit of adventure burning ever bright. Hold on tight, travelers, it's gonna be alright. Another week burning, halfway to the end. Bonus Overdrive, attend at the tears ascend. Bonus Overdrive, Wednesday night is here. Shatter the silence, conquer all your fear. Bonus Overdrive, the angels gonna scream. With Diego at the wheel, living out a dream.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, our guest is an author and musician, and for the last 20 plus years has written and recorded many different styles of music. His latest book, Incendiary, takes you to a time where the world is on fire, and only a specialized group of firefighters are now the line between order and collapse. All this plus more. Please welcome new friend and first-time guest, author and musician, M. von Lindenberg. Von, my friend, welcome to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
What's going on, bud?
Man, it's been a couple of months. I'm glad to have you on.
Yeah, dude.
And we first met, actually, like I said, a few short months ago in Maryland over at Fright Reads. We quickly struck up a good conversation about our love of hard rock and metal.
Yes, sir.
And reading and all that kind of stuff, because I don't know what drew me to your table, but I think I saw the cover of the book.
Yeah.
And that's a badass cover. So I'm going to talk to you about this book here in a little bit. It was a super huge event. How did it go for you, Fright Reads?
I mean, it went pretty well. I kind of came to that thing as a zilch in the first place. I found out about it late in the game and managed to squirrel myself a table when I was only there for the one day and made a solid 24 sales, I think, out of the whole thing. So being on the back end of everything, both getting in and at the actual venue, and being right across from Trauma for the entire thing where they had girls with fishnets and their asses hanging out, I think I did pretty good selling 24 copies of something.
You did extremely well. That is hard competition right there. And well, not only that, my friend, because I don't think it's hard to explain to the folks, our friends, the listeners, how big this event was, because we're looking at it was at I want to say it was like a state fairgrounds, right?
Yeah, it was the Howard County Fairgrounds, and it was the first year that they did it there. And from what I understand, they moved it from where it was because of how large the event was getting. And the guy, Harry, that puts on the Fright Reads thing, he's super passionate about making sure that he gets the right stuff for the right people at the right places for it. And this is the first time that I had been to one as a vendor at all, much less as an author. And the real estate that he had, if I'd have come in without having gone to his halfway to Halloween thing, I would have been like, all right, this is a little audacious. But you figure for what he had going, there was 2 different sides to the entire barn area that he had. And I mean, that place was screaming with authors, and it was packed most of the day that I was there.
It was. That parking lot filled pretty quickly. And it's funny because I had Harry on about 3 weeks before the event.
Okay.
And I didn't put 2 and 2 together. This shows you how ill-equipped I was that night, because I didn't know. Harry said, hey, you gonna go to Fright Reads? I go, stupid question. I go, what is Fright Reads, Harry? I said, come on, man. Okay, so he's like, oh, you're the guy. Yeah. So he goes, just come over and hang out. And
yeah.
So I went to the event, and I got done with one side. I go, okay, this is great. Somebody came up to me, had a conversation. He goes, have you been to the other side? I go, there's another side. I was already tired on one side. Went to the other side. It's like, oh my gosh, even more. So great event. And I like to thank Harry also, because he was kind of the catalyst who helped this interview get started as well. He made the connection with a lot of authors. So, long story short, we're here tonight. Perfect night for podcasting, my friend. And we're going to get into Incendiary here momentarily. During our conversation, we struck up a conversation about our favorite styles of music. We talked about hard rock and metal. But you've been a musician now for quite some time.
Yeah, pretty much all my life.
And when did that start?
I probably started banging on stuff when I was like single digits. I got behind a snare drum when I was 9 years old and did concert stuff for a while. And then when I got my first drum set, I was still in middle school. And from there, that turned into learning how to play different kinds of music on the drum kit. And then I got my first guitar, my first bass. I started learning how to play piano. And then I found out that I'm one of those disgusting people that if you give me an instrument in an hour, I can figure out how to make something pretty decent out of it.
What a gift. I tell you, I took drum lessons when I was in 7th grade for a little while.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit complicated. Some people pick it up pretty easily. Let me tell you how it stopped, these drum lessons. So I was trying to be really cute. My mom was watching TV and I'm playing with the drumsticks, because they give you a little practice rubber mat. I don't know if everybody's seen those. And,
Yep.
and I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'm watching Headbangers Ball and I'm seeing these guys. They're doing the tricks with the fingers, right? Twirling the sticks. Kept flying around the living room. Almost hit my mom. She took these things from me because you're done. And that was pretty much it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So no, didn't pick him up again. And, she wasn't having it. But let's talk about your first band. And then what style of music were you playing?
The first band that I was in, we did a lot of we pretended that we were a power metal band. So something in between like Nocturnal Rites and a little bit of pirate metal like Ailstorm. We were called the Jolly Old Jacks and I was 13, maybe 14 years old. And we recorded stuff in my basement on a Logitech microphone plugged into a laptop that was 2 stories up just so it wouldn't clip the entire track. But it was a bunch of double kick, 3/4 time with all kinds of what we thought was awesome as freshmen and sophomore and in high school. And that was the first big thing that I tried to do. And then when I started getting into using stuff like Acid Pro and a couple of those, I'm showing my age right now, but those older DAWs like that, I got into producing my own stuff, learned how to do multi-track recording and things like that. So I've been doing solo projects for, God, it's been at least 25 years that I've been doing that. I've been recording my own stuff solo since I was probably 15 or 16 years old. So it's been a minute for sure.
I like the fact that you mentioned Nocturnal Rites. How many people know about that band? At least not here in the U.S.
Oh, it's one of my favorite, man.
I think right off the top of my head, Sacred Talisman comes to mind. That's one of my favorite albums they have.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it's called. And, there's something about power metal, man, because it can go anywhere.
Yeah, it can. Right. Some of them are super annoying too, but you catch those ones. And I think that's why Nocturnal Rites is always one of the ones that stood out. And they're still in my heavy rotation. I'll listen to New World Messiah over and over again to this day. They seem like they're one of those bands that's not so pretentious like how Rhapsody of Fire wound up becoming. Nocturnal Rites just stayed a really solid heavy metal band while also being a power metal band, but they had really good groove sensibilities, if that makes sense. You could tell that some of these guys were jazz musicians in a past life kind of thing, because the music they were playing wasn't just pretension for pretension's sake.
Yeah, with Rhapsody of Fire, I liked them. I stuck around after Luca Cirilli left.
Yeah.
And then it was Fabio Leone and Alex Tarapoli.
Yeah.
But I think Fabio left it after that. I'm like, you know what? I'm good. No offense, but
they start producing the same stuff over and over again, and it's great. And Dragon Force was the same thing. Their first 2 albums were kick ass, but then they just came up with the same music every single album. And if I wanted to listen to U2, then I would listen to U2, but I don't like them either.
No, I completely understand, and hopefully, I think that did they do a reunion show, Rhapsody of Fire?
I remember reading something about that on Enemy, I think, at some point. I don't know whether they did like a full reunion or if it was one of those like, we're going to pretend that it's a reunions. I'm not sure if everyone came back. I think Luca came back for whatever it was. I don't remember when I read something about that, but I think you're right.
Yeah, kind of like they would have done it like Halloween did it, because they eventually got the original singer, and then I got Andy Darius, and then
Yep.
Kai Hansen was in there too. I don't know. Look, I could talk about this all night long.
Right.
This is how you and I started our conversation at the table, talking about that. So, being that you've been a musician for so long and writing music and writing a book, writing stories, completely different things, similar in a way. Because music, you have to tell the story not only through sound but also through lyrics. Where as an author, you're strictly got the writing, but then you have to create a world and characters. When in the point from being a musician did you become an author?
So I never earmarked myself as an author at all. I've like done creative writing things, and I've, just done like bullshit stuff with writing poetry and things like that. But it's funny that you say that there's like the convergence there, because lyrics has always been one of those really difficult things for me when it comes to music. And I find them to be the hardest part to not force when I'm trying to write something. So a lot of the stuff that I had done with previous projects was instrumental. And I think the way that and the book comes together is I feel haunted by the things that I write, whether it's music or whether it's the books that I have started to go through. Even when it comes to things like painting and drawing and things like that, a lot of them come from a place of exorcism where I will wake up and I will have the idea for a song. And it's not like I have an idea for this riff that I'm going to do on the guitar or this one particular drum pattern. It's the whole composition is ready to go. And there's this mania about it to just have to get it the fuck out, And writing kind of has that same effect at this point, where the idea will hit and it'll just snowball until the idea is done. And sometimes I feel, sort of possessed by the notion of doing it. But I have approached writing both of those things in the same way, where I try to be deliberate with the product, but I try as hard as I can to not force the issue for anything. So if a song is going to wind up being 11 minutes long, then the song is going to be 11 minutes long. If I've got a song that is only going to be 45 seconds, then that's how long the song is. I don't pay attention to word count. I don't pay attention to page count or any of that stuff when it comes to a book. There's a story that has to get told. So I do my job and help that story get channeled out into whatever it turns into. And then you wind up with books like Incendiary, where, I didn't know the characters that I was going to meet as I was writing it. I literally had the word incendiary in my head when I woke up, and I was like, there's something there. What am I going to do with it? And then suddenly the notion came along of, why haven't I ever read a book or seen a movie about spontaneous human combustion as an airborne virus? And then the book fucking went off.
I'm going to say 100%. First time I ever heard this concept.
Right. That's first thing that I thought of too. After it popped in my head, I was like, I can't think of anything. And like, I'm a huge cinephile, and that's part of where the meeting of all of those medias come together. Is like, I don't write music because I have songs that are sitting around for it. I write them because they're soundtracks in my head for things. So they would be something that would be set against cinema somewhere. And the books that I write, I'm not trying to tell people how green the grass is and how blue the sky is, because it's not really necessary for building the world. Everything that I have is very, very trimmed, and it's very cinematic to the point where that's the end game for any of the stuff that I'm writing. Is to see if I can option these things out for, you know, a limited series, or if someone wants to make a movie of it, something. And they may be lofty goals, but I write for a visual audience.
And on the topic, you know, you kind of read my mind on something, but I'm going to go back to that really quick. But with a spontaneous combustion, with that storyline, I think that's one of the things. It was a kind of a throwaway line to the table when I met you, and I said, "This is the first time I've actually, outside of hearing it from different people down the road, as folklore or stories you've heard in the past about spontaneous human combustion." I talked to you at the table. I said, "You know, the only time I ever heard of somebody putting that in a storyline was in Spinal Tap."
Right. And it's funny because you were like the fourth person that had mentioned that at the thing. And we were like, oh, yeah, like Spinal Tap. And I was like, yes, but no.
Right. And I was like, you know what? He's going to think I'm being a wise ass, but I really wasn't trying to. And I think it works. Now, going back to soundtracks, as you're writing your stories, seeing that you have a lot going on, you have music, story writing, a soundtrack to Incendiary. As you're writing the words on paper, getting this book out, do you in your mind also have an idea how the music would go or what riff would go well with you know, in creating a song for a certain chapter?
There are times when writing it, there's definitely a cadence that is occurring. I don't know that I necessarily hear the soundtrack to it because my focus is on a different part of the brain at that point. But there's definitely a cadence to the writing that I could liken to other things. There was a lot of Incendiary that the soundtrack that I was running through my head was a lot of Author and Punisher. A lot of Author and Punisher, which if you haven't checked them out, they're fantastic. It's just a one guy. He was a mechanical engineer that decided that there wasn't the right kind of industrial music. So he built his own array of sound, and he locks himself in this cage of synthesizers and buttons, and the way that he uses it's like a mech suit to create the music for it. And that's how this book sounded to me, was just that it's so big in the presentation of it, but it's so confined in the means to get around, where the book has this notion of a worldwide pandemic of combustion, but because of the stakes in the entire thing, everything is so claustrophobic. And Author and Punisher just kept on being the stuff that was playing in my head while I was writing it, because it's so airy, but it's so closed in at the exact same time. And you can hear it in every one of the songs that there's just so much room in the recording, but you know that this guy, if you've watched his Boiler Room set, is literally sitting in the middle of this like 3x3 device that covers him from head to toe.
That could be both maddening and kind of opening up a whole different world of creativity. I don't know how long someone could be in such a small confined area.
It's wild to watch him do a performance. I would completely suggest the Boiler Room performance that he did. It's fantastic. But like, you know, that goes back to what I was saying before with it feeling like this kind of haunting exorcism thing when I go to write, is with Incendiary, much like the first book that I wrote, it was, the idea was enough to spur the writing. And then once I started the actual writing, I was confined to that until the story was finished. And I kept building more and more characters and more of the world and more of the cinematography that goes into the entire thing. And the bigger everything got, the more closed off I felt.
And at what point did this idea popped in your head? And I mean, because I know that you had that one word and you built around that. But when was it that, were you driving in a car? Were you writing a song? Were you just sitting somewhere and the idea hit you in the head?
I was driving to work one morning and the word incendiary just kept it's like I had a New York Times stock ticker in my head and it just kept flashing past the ticker. And I just kept thinking incendiary. What could that be about? Incendiary. What could that be about? And like, I don't want to write something like Jarhead. We don't need another wartime thing where there's some Marine who jumps on a grenade. Who cares, right? And the more I thought about it, the more dystopian the thought became. And the more I obsessed about it, just on the 20-minute ride to work, the more I was like, oh, I think I have something here for it. And it needs to be dystopian, and it needs to be obsessive, and it needs to be something that is, you know, it's confined to that word, but that word being what it is, it's anything that can be set fire is an incendiary at that point. It doesn't have to be a device. It's literally anything. So that gave me a really broad stroke to do stuff with. And then the notion of it being spontaneous human combustion as a virus, that stuck immediately when I started doing it. That was just, that had to be where the story came from. And it's not written as a, oh shit, we're going to get there. Where's patient zero? The book opens up with spontaneous human combustion is an airborne virus. And now we're going to go through the book.
And during this ride in your vehicle, I'm one of those people, I don't know about you, especially at work, and I had this conversation a few times with different people. I have a sticky notepad next to me. The minute an idea hits me, I write it down, I put it in my monitor.
Right.
And then I take it home with me, right? Seeing that you were in a ride home or going to work in your vehicle, you just can't pull over and start writing stuff down, or I forget a lot of shit.
Right.
So how did you keep that momentum going till you got to your destination and eventually either wrote it down or recorded it somewhere for, you know?
I lucked out is what happened. And during the time that I was writing Incendiary, I had a decent amount of downtime at work. So I was able to get into work, crack open a Google document, and then start to realistically just feverishly write the entire thing. I would love to say that I mapped it, but I'm a pantser, as they call it, with book writing. And there was no plan for it at all. It was the word and the concept, and everything else was just off at the starting gate. And I lucked out that I had enough downtime throughout the weeks or couple months that I spent writing the book that I could do that in chunks, a few chapters at a time, while I was at work waiting for other things to pop off that needed attention.
Sure. And, you know, sometimes that downtime, I can't have downtime. I always have to be doing something.
Well, and this I'm the exact same way. And this was a saving grace to sorts, because it was downtime during a point in the job that there should not have been downtime. So it was unplanned. And I go crazy if I don't have stuff to do. I certainly go crazier if I know there's things that need to get done, but somehow the rug just got pulled out from under me. So I was chomping at the bit for something, and then this came to me. So I lucked out.
And that's one of those magical moments. Some of the most important times of creativity is when that idea hits you, and you're so excited to get this project going. For me, I get obsessed, and I just keep going until I can't go no more. And then the next day I keep going until the project's finished. I look at it. Well, this needs to be tweaked. This needs to be tweaked. And boom, here comes the book. Now, in the spirit of this book, can you tell us about some of the characters that you created?
Yeah, sure. The book itself, it follows a group of paramilitary firefighters. They're called the Spatesmiths. And what they do is they are a not just firefighting brigade. Because of the notion of it being airborne, they don't know exactly what it is that is the contagion. So in order to help out the remaining population in the world, it's their job to contain the fire, to neutralize the threat of any carbon matter essentially escaping. And we're talking anything from steam, smoke, to a runner from, if it's in the third floor of an apartment, then somebody might try and get out. Well, what do you do when they're smoke inhalation from the fourth floor and they find out that they can get out the fire escape or whatever? that turns into a problem. So they're there to neutralize the threat of escape by any means necessary. And then the group of them basically fights fire with fire, where instead of dousing it with water like you would traditionally do with a fire, they set everything on fire more. So they set it up to a heavy blaze that eventually turns into this pockmark of glass. And it follows this specific brigade where Deacon Whaley is the guy that you are following for the entirety of the book, but it's his group that he's with, where there's Charlotte Glass, who is his commanding officer. There's Chief Holland, who's the guy that's in charge of like the district, if you will. And then he's got his buddy Brick. There's Two Shoes. There's Grease Fire. There's a handful of people that you kind of follow around, and it's all of them have their own personality archetypes, which you kind of need when you're going to do a band of people. And the book, while it's this massive speculative horror kind of thing, it follows each one of these characters through the eyes of Deacon Whaley, and you start to see the psychological toll that it has on each one of the characters, and you get little bits of their backstory and where they could have been before the fires really started to be a thing, or what brought them to being a spadesmith in the first place, and what's their sliver of hope for a hopeless world.
And the idea for this being a pandemic or a virus, airborne virus of sorts, was this kind of inspired a little bit by what we went through, kind of a pandemic not long ago?
Not on purpose, but the more I wrote, the more it occurred to me that I have a grasp on how that was dealt with what happened with the entire world 5 years ago at this point. Jesus, it's been 5 years. But then beyond that, you get to explore what would you have done instead of what was done, or what could have been done to a different extreme instead of what was done. So I got to play within that world of pandemonium instead of it being something that I'm living in and wondering, shit, can I go to work tomorrow or not?
Right. And with the title of the book, the
Title
cover,
of the book? Oh, with the cover?
yeah, with the cover, Incendiary, it makes perfect sense the way it's laid out. Was that something that you painted yourself?
I came up with the concept for the entire thing. I worked with a company to kind of help tweak the rest of it for it, but I wanted it to be something that was bold and something that was in your face. And it didn't make sense to me to have it be, there's no way to come up with a picture of the landscape of the world literally being on fire. And we've seen pictures of the globe with, light everywhere because it's on fire. We've seen broken cityscapes all over the place. We've seen the apocalypse things in Judge Dredd and all these other movies and shows, and they've all got the covers of the books. But because the character that you follow, Deacon Whaley, is part of the Spadesmiths and he's living in this world, I wanted it to be something that was really personal. So the cover of it being just the Spadesmith bust from the neck up, the point was I wanted it to be grounded in humanity. Like, that there are people involved in this. It's not a book about what's happening in the world. It's a book about the people that are living in the world still. And I wanted it to have the human feeling to it, but then with the outfit that he's wearing, with the mask he's got with the respirator, and then the reflective visor. The visor was really, really important, where I wanted to make sure that had the reflection of the cityscape in it. That way that he's dealing with something that's not just him. So you're getting that broad stroke and then that claustrophobia all at once in the cover too. And I think it really, really conveyed. I'm glad that the people that I work with for my cover art are able to understand what it is that I'm going for, because sometimes I can get a little too wordy about it.
Yeah.
But it worked out really well.
Yeah, and that cover does definitely shine. It's actually, it kind of drew my attention to your table. And that's how this whole thing began now, because I really didn't ask about the cover because you're an artist as well, correct?
Correct.
And I know the listeners, our friends, can't see the cameras, but behind you, are those some of the things, some of your work that you've done?
Yeah, so I do all kinds of different mediums for stuff. So I paint with like acrylics, and I really like doing Sharpie art. I have done carvings, and I like going to like pick up stuff from Home Goods, and you find busts of like deer and stuff like that, and I'll turn them into these like satanic effigies. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's floating around down here. This is kind of my very, very conceited homage to myself, because it's the only space that I have in the house. The rest of it is my wife and my toddler.
Hey, you ain't wrong though, because in my room here, I know you can't see the whole, you only see one side, but this is kind of like the area where everything makes sense to me. It helps for creativity
Right.
and sets the tone and the mood for whatever my next project is going to be. Because I'm looking at one in the back end. To me, it looks like a sleeve stack, giving me the middle finger.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's two of them. One of them is it's Mortimer saying hello, and it's the same guy, just different colors, and he's just waving, and he's got a little flower pot as a hat. And then the other one is Mercutio, I think is what I named that one, saying goodbye, and he's just got his back turned, giving you the finger, and he's got a little sailboat for a hat.
No, I mean, it's really nice, man. You know, from what I can see, and you have quite a nice space there. You know, I would definitely feel very creative being in that space myself. So now, I know we talked earlier, but I know that you release some new music, and I think in January of 2026.
January 2025, this past year, I put out a full-length album with my project Discordant Morality. It's a whole one-man band thing.
And is that definitely available for download in the other platforms?
Download, streaming, I mean, it's everywhere, man. It's all over the world, anywhere you can listen to music. Album's called Conditionally Human.
Awesome. And now for our friends and listeners of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday that want to learn more about you, your projects, and where they can get their hands on a physical or downloadable copy of Incendiary, where can they go find out?
They can get any of that stuff from any major ebook and print book retailer. You can go through Amazon. You can pick them up. You can go directly through me at my website, vonlindy.media. And then you can go to Barnes & Noble, any of those places too. And I'm working on trying to get it in libraries.
And it definitely will be in the libraries, man, because I know you're working very hard. You're going to be doing a lot of these events, and I'll be seeing you down the road. And I'd love to have you back on next year, because I know you'll have probably a few more books by then and more music. I'd like to bring you back and talk about it.
Sure do.
Thank you, my friend. Hey, before we go, we chatted earlier on this episode with M. von Lindenberg that he's also a musician. So here's something that he sent us from his vault. This is Discordant Morality with Benevolent Abortive Grief. Right now.
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.